I am a male 26-year-old who has been dating Marissa, a 27-year-old, for 3.5 years. She is my really best friend, and we have a great relationship. But lately, there have been some obstacles that have arisen, and this has caused conflict with her family. As a result, I've always wanted to prenuptial agreements in marriages. Marissa strongly opposes them. It's a pretty delicate subject, but we're working through it. Marissa frequently confides in her sisters about her life, and the subject of prenuptial agreements has come up. Her family as a whole is aware of the circumstance and is not happy about it. They are really traditional people, and I doubt it offends them that I disbelieve Marissa because they feel like they've always treated me like family. I've attempted to clarify that it's a numbers game and not a trust issue, and I'm just attempting to protect myself. I'm not going to pop the question until she signs one. She is aware that I already own the ring. We can't get over the impasse because she won't say yes if a prenup is involved. We've spent a lot of late hours discussing it, and we're even going to see a counselor about the circumstances. I definitely don't want to talk about it because it's a very painful subject. After playing golf with a few of my boys yesterday, I came home to find her older sister Jen at our house. I greeted them and then lay down. LOL, I had a few beers. Jen, though, invited me to come talk to them outside. Reluctantly, I consented and entered the living room as Jen motioned for me to sit down, as if I were in the principal's office or something. She began lecturing me about the importance of trust in relationships, and that I should stop sticking my head in my butt. I got up to go, telling her I wouldn't be talking to her about the relationship. My girlfriend tried to encourage her sister to back off, but Jen said, "No, sit down and let's hash this out." Jen expressed her frustration with my handling of the prenup and my treatment of her sister as a gold digger. I told her to get over it, that our relationship was none of her business. Jen responded, "You're such an idiot and will ruin your relationship. You have no idea how to have a successful relationship, and it's because of your attitude. I'm not going to sit here and be given relationship pointers by a woman with 2 baby daddies and no ring. Check yourself," I replied to her as soon as I turned to face her. I then retreated into my bedroom. A few minutes later, Marissa entered, stating I had to apologize to her because her sister had left in tears. She can't hurl stones without anticipating some backlash, so I advised her to stop if she wanted to get personal and get involved in other people's relationships. Jen refused to quit even after I told her to. My girlfriend claims that although she asked Jen to stop talking about our predicament, she still wanted an apology from me. So, am I the fool here? You make a point, you're not the fool. Massive red flags are also flying. Your girlfriend is rushing to her relatives since she is having problems in her personal life. Are you interested in marrying someone else or her family? As it appears that you are marrying her entire family, and that they will be involved in all future decisions. Jen was trying to get into your relationship by talking down to you and being patronizing. Turnabout is fair play. Yes, Jen was totally wrong. As they say, mess around and find out. Quite frankly, your girlfriend should be careful about what, or at least how much, she chooses to discuss with others. Furthermore, why is signing a prenuptial agreement such a huge issue if you two are so sure that getting married is the correct decision for you? It shouldn't be a problem unless someone is worried that it won't work out. It's obvious that one or both of you are skeptical about its durability. If the other partner is going to be a manipulative moron, they really shouldn't get married. What kind of guy tells his girlfriend that he bought her a ring but that he won't pop the question until she signs the prenuptial agreement? Major red flag. Manipulative actions. Yes, I turned down the ring and signed the prenuptial agreement. I would then carry on with my life. OP, here, it's all the idiots. When all Jen was doing was trying to have an adult conversation and watch out for her sister, you didn't need to get mean. Having said that, she ought to have given up when prompted. You'll need it, so good luck with your relationship. We'll see, but I'm quite confident I was a fool here. I am 30 years old and 8 months pregnant. Every day I take public transportation to work. I have to work extra hours to pay for basics, therefore I'm always tired. Every day I ride the bus to work, which is frequently crowded, but I'm fortunate enough that sometimes kind people will give up their seats to me. It's important for me to clarify that I don't use my pregnancy as a justification for accepting favors. Instead, people have been gracious enough to offer me their places on their own. Like every Wednesday, I board the bus, but this time there's just one seat available. When I go to sit, there's a man in a business suit sitting there, sort of placing his hand on the vacant seat. When I say, "Excuse me," and ask him to take off his hand so I can sit, he responds that there is already someone seated. When I inquire as to who, he replies, "His hand." I won't lie, I laughed a little, but I wasn't feeling well, so I begged him to take it off so I could sit. This time, he refused, and others began to stare. When I finally tell him that I need to sit down because I'm fatigued, he says that my pregnancy isn't a problem. My back throbbing and my legs burning, I decided I could take no more. So I took a seat on his hand. He yells at me and flinches as he attempts to take it off. Subsequently, he begins to argue about how impolite I was to act in such an unacceptable manner, and in public no less. I counterattack, but he walks off after accusing me of being impolite and improper. I feel embarrassed about what occurred, so I just sit there while everyone looks at me. I tell my hubby about the experience and he's like, "WTF?" the whole time. Then admits that I did behave inappropriately, and that I shouldn't have caused him discomfort by sitting so close to his hand. I told him I was so tired of standing and I really needed to sit down, but he tells me I messed up and this was completely improper. Am I the foolish one? Not the fool. But it still amazes me that you took the seat away from Mr. Hand, his one and only lover. Hands belong on hands, not on seats. Keep your butt in your seat if you don't want it on your hand. I wholeheartedly agree with what you did. What on earth did he expect, really? Being a petty 7-month pregnant lady, my immediate reaction was, "He's lucky you didn't pee on his hand and claim your water broke." He desired to descend low. Not the moron OP, but you ought to have brought it to the floor. To be honest, I'm a little shocked that more people didn't call him out on his ignorance while he was doing it, but she handled it nicely on her own. I'm sorry to say it, but your husband seems to be operating under different objectives. He ought to be supporting you rather than working against you in this. It's quite strange that he believes the man's hand should have a seat all by itself. I wouldn't recommend you should confront your husband about this if you don't want to, but if it comes up again, I would stand by your position. I was a daily user of the public bus system in my 20s, 30s, and 40s, so I am familiar with this type of rider. Sometimes they are touch-phobic, or they are snobs whose automobiles are in the shop and who are shocked to have to cope with a stranger sitting next to them, or a gasp, or they believe that I call dibs on 2 seats. Should be respected on a packed bus. Well done for taking a seat immediately, and refusing to let him take up 2 seats. On that bus, everyone was rooting for you. Like any other bride, I have certain expectations regarding how my wedding should proceed, and I'm getting married. A rule that exclusively invites those listed on the invitation is the no plus ones rule. My fiancé and I both know your partner and have met them, thus those who meet these requirements will be allowed to bring their companions. My fiancé and I are incompatible if I is aware of your relationship and you are not, and vice versa. Those who fit certain conditions are allowed to bring their partners if I personally attend to dinner with you and your partner, if I would invite your partner as a distinct person otherwise, and not simply because they are your partner, and if your partner is also one of my friends. Simply put, if they don't bring them, they don't bring them. Long-term partnerships, engaged couples, and married couples are not included in this. We've decided to establish such guidelines in order to make ourselves more comfortable, even though we realize they may sound strict. It is entirely our decision and has nothing to do with the venue's capacity or funding. Because of such regulations, a number of people have declined our invitation to our wedding. My cousin is also one of them. My cousin was disappointed that we left out the girl, who he has been engaged to for a year. She wasn't invited as my fiancé hadn't met her, and I don't personally know her. I informed my cousin how disappointed I was that he couldn't attend the wedding because of this, and how it bothered me that he couldn't spend a few hours apart from his fiancée in order to respect both my fiancée and me. It's not necessary for couples to stay together all the time. Then he essentially informed me that I was being a complete moron and disrespectful. Let me get this straight. You want me to come to honor you at your wedding, honor your love story, and all that, but you can't respect me enough to invite my fiancé? I can be without my fiancé for several hours. Heck, we even spend days apart on vacations with our own separate friend groups sometimes. What bothers me is not being away from my fiancé for some hours, but the fact that you excluded her for those reasons. I told him, those are the rules, take it or leave it. He claims that he finds my rules extremely disrespectful, but since it's my wedding, he has no say in the matter. I said, good, and asked him to stop making jokes about me and come as a sign of respect and support. He remarked that although he honors my incredibly harsh and rude demands, I am naive to think he will value my wedding more than his fiancée. Am I the foolish one? It's you who is the fool. What is the matter with you? You have the right to set your own rules, but that comes with the understanding and expectation that individuals are free to decline attendance if they have sad rules. Take it or leave it. You told him, then you whined and complained about him leaving it. Ridiculous, OP, what an unbearable person you are. I could go into detail, but what would be the point? Your cousin told you exactly why you're a dumbass. I hope it doesn't come as a shock if your cousin decides to invite your husband instead of you or yourself to their wedding. It's customary for people to attend weddings dressed as couples. We don't really discuss the reason behind this expectation, but here's the hard truth. Nobody else, not your friends, not your bridesmaids, nobody, cares about your wedding save you and your mother. The unwritten social norm at weddings is that you get to bring someone to prevent you from going insane from boredom, since weddings are the height of tedium. I'm a woman in my 30s. At 46, my sister-in-law and I have 3 children. 5 months ago, my sister-in-law wanted to stay in our extra room after she lost her rental. I answered sure, but with 2 conditions. She would have to pay $300 a month for her portion of the energy and other bills, and she would have to buy all of her food because I cannot afford to feed her. Right now, my hubby is serving overseas. In this, he is on my side. The other members of the family have moved away. For the first month or so, everything went smoothly. After that, our food expenses increased dramatically. The regular monthly income of $450 was increased to about $600. I didn't alter our meals or diets. When I discovered that the lunches I packed for me at work each day were periodically disappearing, container and all, I asked my sister-in-law some questions. She redirected the conversation towards my children, suggesting that perhaps they had been smuggling food, and said she couldn't believe I would accuse her of such things. I didn't challenge this. My eldest son does steal food, but usually it's just desserts, not entire meals. I thus inquired as to whether my child had been eating. I told him it was acceptable if he was hungry, and that he should just let me know since it was getting in the way of my morning routine and other things, and it was becoming inconvenient because I now had to make my work meal in the morning. I just didn't have time sometimes. He vowed fervently that he didn't touch it. When my child is lying, I can tell. He kept his hands off the food. It was about 4 days ago that food continued to disappear. This included the juice boxes and snacks my kids used, as well as the microwave dinners I started buying for myself to eat at work as my prepared meals started to disappear. I began staying up longer than normal in an attempt to capture the offender, and sure enough, the day before yesterday at 1:30 a.m., my sister-in-law was in my kitchen, nuking one of my microwave meals and slurping down my kids' juice bottles. I cracked up. I informed her that she had to buy all of the food she ate when she moved in, that she was spending my money, and that she was trying to place the blame on my children. Then she begins to say that if I had been more approachable, she would have shared with me how much of her anxiety is related to her food insecurity and weight, and that she felt excluded when I refused to feed her. I told her rather firmly that her food and weight worries are not my darn business, and that we could have sorted this if she had been an adult and voiced her concerns. She had a month to find somewhere else to be, though, if she preferred to sit here and accuse my kids of stealing food. The following day, I received a written notice of eviction. As I already mentioned, my entire family is currently against me, calling me some kind of fool for making comments about a huge girl's weight and failing to recognize that big girls may be afraid to go grocery shopping because of the amount of attention they receive. Am I the foolish one? Not the fool. Being a big girl myself, I have to admit that's the silliest justification I have ever heard for essentially robbing kids of their food. As a disabled single mother, there are moments when I am short on cash for meals. Thus, I go without sustenance if I consume the food that was intended for my daughter. Children should never be denied food by an adult. The worst part is that she's holding kids responsible for food that was intended for an adult. She believes that punishing a child for what she did is acceptable. I find it hard to believe that anyone could support her. How come? Not the fool. Her weight was not mentioned by you. What is the nature of your issue? She accused your kids for some serious BS, which is just absurd. You did say that when she needed a place to stay, people ignored her, correct? Perhaps this explains why. Indeed, it's amazing that everyone is suddenly supporting her even though nobody would take her in. It seems like a big headache. Being overweight does not give one the right to eat other people's food. What sort of absurd reasoning is that? I'm sure you've done nothing improper. She can handle her lack of a shelter now, though. My fiancé, who is 28 years old, and I got together in college, and we both have a lot of hope for the future. His sibling, who is his twin, resides abroad. Their similarities make it difficult to distinguish between them at times. Over the years, I have had a few encounters with his brother. Regretfully, the worldwide problem has prevented him from being able to come. This past weekend was a big family reunion for me. My fiancé informed me he was unable to attend the reunion, and complained about it. I informed him that on the day of the reunion, he may meet more of my relatives and that it would mean a lot to me. There, he said he would meet me. When I get at the reunion, I find him seated in his vehicle. He appeared to be in a good mood and was sporting a baseball cap. He said when my aunt asked him what he did for a living while we were getting tipsy and conversing with family, I kept quiet even though I started to notice anything strange. My fiancé was playing a video game on the couch when I looked over. I asked him if he enjoyed the reunion when I came home, and he replied that he did. Then I requested him to tell me the name of my cousin. After giving it some serious thought, he burst out laughing. He informed me that a friend had dropped off his twin brother, who had attended the reunion. I asked him to go so I could calm down since I was so furious with him. He moved in with a buddy, and I'm still in shock that he would play such a cruel joke on me. My parents are really supportive even if they are furious with him. He believes that I'm exaggerating and that what he did wasn't harmful. Is it foolish of me to be upset with my fiancé for the practical joke he played? Not the fool. I could have been tempted to head home and tell your fiancé how much you like to have fun during the reunion by slinking away. Inform him that it was the greatest night ever. Even by the loosest definition, this wasn't a prank. He only branded it a joke when she put the pieces together. This was, I decided to get my twin to go on my stead because I don't want to meet my fiancé's extended family. Was there any chance he would have told her if she hadn't noticed the difference? When he realized it was working, how many more times would he have utilized his twin to avoid doing things with her? Not the fool. You should reconsider marrying this man. It was foolish, it wasn't innocuous. Anticipate more cruel jokes from him and his naive brother. What extent would they have pursued it? The fact that he minimizes your feelings is a huge red flag. You don't need to be getting married if you can't tell your significant other apart when you're a little tipsy. Everyone in this situation is an idiot, as it's not even about who is who. It's about recognizing who your so is and who they are not.